What's up, bros? It's JpCharisma here speaking, and today I'm going to be showing you how to install SPL Rear Billet Camber Arms on your 370Z. Let's get started. Alright, the first thing you want to do is make sure your car, if it's an automatic in park, and if yours is manual like mine, you're going to put your car in first gear. Alright, the second thing you want to do is actually, you want to loosen your rear wheels. Now that you're finally done loosening the rear wheels on your car, it's finally time to jack it up. I personally like to put mine on the diff whenever I have to jack my car up in the rear. Okay, so now that my jack stands are finally under the car, I'm going to slowly drop the vehicle. Sometimes for extra protection, I like to leave the jack stand slightly under the car somewhere where it's not going to mess up the car or floorboard. Probably just leave it under here. It's not actually jacked up, but just in case those jack stands fall out. Make sure you go ahead and put some wheel blocks in front of it. That way if the car decides to start rolling ahead, even though it's in first gear and the e-brake is up or it's in park, just to prevent the car from rolling and falling directly under your body. We got the wheels loosened, and we also have car jacked up. We can now remove these wheels. Alright, so I spoke to SPL Parts on the phone and made sure I had everything lined up properly. So it turns out that you want this to be bending kind of downwards, not upwards, so that's why I have it like that. And we have the other rear camber arm right there. Okay, so before you start actually working on the rear camber arm, which is right here, those two bolts, you want to make sure you loosen up your sway bar. So if you can see, there's two bolts. There's a 14mm bolt there, and there's a 14mm bolt right there. You're going to want to loosen up all four bolts on the sway bar, so that way you can put the sway bar down. For some reason, whenever you try to take this bolt off, this factory bolt off right here, the sway bar actually gets in the way and there's not enough clearance for you to remove it. So make sure you loosen off all four bolts. Okay, so now we're going to be taking off this bolt. It takes a 17mm socket. Make sure you put your breaker bar on there nice and tight and just twist it. Alright, so if you can see this, there is a bolt right here. You're going to need to use an adjustable wrench. That way you can loosen and tighten that bolt right there. Alright, so now we have one more bolt to actually break. I think once we break this bolt, the entire rear camber arm will be much more easy to take off. We're going to just break this bolt right here. Bolt is finally broken. We're gonna go ahead and put this 17mm on there, and this one as well. Alright, so now that your OEM rear camber arm is off, you want to make sure that the aftermarket SPL one is about the same length as the OEM one, so that way you can get this to fit under there. So now we're going to show you how to install this. Okay, so now we're going to show you how to install the rear camber arm and eccentric lockout kit. Alright, so I tried to make this rear camber arm pretty much the same length as OEM factory, but for some reason when I've been lining it up, it hasn't been actually fitting. So what I'm going to do is put this bolt in on this end, and then I'm going to actually adjust the length of this camber arm with this piece right here. So if you twist it clockwise, then it will shortening it when I twist it clockwise. Alright, so that seems about the right length. Now that we finally have that pretty much completed, what I'm going to do is I'm going to start on the other side. Eccentric lockout kit / bolt so that way I can show you guys exactly how I'm installing it. So now that I have this camber arm mocked up, I'm gonna go ahead and stick this bolt in there as much as I can. And because we dropped the sway bar, it made it so much easier to put this bolt through. Okay, so now that the bolt is finally through, you're gonna get this spacer and stick it on the bolt like this. And then try to make it fit on those two notches without pushing the bolt out. All right, now you want to get your nut and just split it on there, kind of tight. So I believe this is an 18-inch nut right here. So what you want to do is get your wrench, make sure it's righty tighty lefty loosey, put that over the nut like so. This nut on the back is pretty much kind of big like the last one, so you're gonna make sure you have a adjustable wrench to put on there, so you can just tighten it up real quick. So just tighten it by hand as much as you can, and then after you're done tightening it up as much as you can, you're gonna want to torque it down. But before we torque it down, we're gonna go ahead and we're going to tighten the other side. Okay, so now that we finally gotten our 17mm nut on there, we're gonna get our 17mm wrench and socket and our 17mm wrench and just tighten it on there. And I just like to tighten it on hand as much as possible. The last thing that you need to do is grab your torque wrench and then your 17mm socket. I believe this one is 65 foot-pounds of torque, so make sure that you have your torque wrench set to 65 foot-pounds of torque, and then I'm gonna hold it with this one. All right, when you hear that click, you're supposed to be finished. So that's 65 foot-pounds of torque. With this bolt, you want to tighten this down about 53 foot-pounds of torque. So I already have my torque wrench set at 53 foot-pounds of torque. You want to grab an adjustable wrench so that you can hold on to this while simultaneously putting this torque wrench on there, and then twist it until you hear it click. Alright, that's done. 53 foot-pounds of torque. Now that that's over with, you want to make sure all of your Allen keys and everything are put onto spec. So for some reason I got this Allen key tight on here in a really bad spot for my person who's going to align it. So now I'm just going to get this Allen key, I'm going to loosen it, so that way I can twist this and make it easier for the person who's going to align my car. Down this Allen key right here, so that way it's in an easier position. I think it's 120 inch-pounds, so you just tighten it by hand as tight as possible, and then tighten down these Allen keys as well, so that way your alignment doesn't move down or anything. That's the main reason why I got the eccentric lockout kit, because when you have the eccentric lockout kit, it makes it harder for your alignment to go out of spec. So with these eccentric lockout kit plus these SPL arms, my camber will be in the right spec that I need. Alright guys, so I finally finished showing you guys how to install the rear camber arms. I'm waiting for my SPL traction arm spacers to come in, so that way my traction arms aren't moving back and forth. So once those come in tomorrow, I will finish showing you guys how to install your SPL rear traction arms.